Hey, teeth lover, what is going on? So, today I am going to be talking to you about something that is really important that we do in conjunction with strength training, building muscle, right? I always talk about fixing imbalances and strength training, and wow, this is like totally what is going to help us, get rid of pain and prolong our career and essentially prevent MSDs and, build a strong, healthy body. There's a big missing piece of the puzzle that we don't talk about enough, and that is mobility. So today is all about mobility. I can't wait to chat with you about this because I just love chatting about all things fitness. So thanks for listening in, and here we go.
Hey there! Welcome to the Lift for Longevity podcast, where our goal is to build our strongest, healthiest body. We all deserve to feel our best, but since we only get one body, we have to make sure to protect it by moving safely and with purpose to prevent pain, injury, and surgery. I'm your host, Brianne, and I'm a fit pro turned business owner and also a girl mom. I'm obsessed with educating and empowering dental pros on how to take care of their body by training efficiently and building the right muscles to prolong their career. I know you're tired of spending time working out but still dealing with annoying aches and pains, getting rid of your pain temporarily only to have it come right back just a few hours later, or feeling like you never have any energy. You wish there was a long-term solution to get rid of your pain for good. Well, I'm here to give you real-life, actionable steps that you can take today to get rid of your pain, say goodbye to quick fixes, and have energy to live a life that you love. So if you're ready to get stronger, enjoy your life outside the operatory, and have longevity in your career, grab yourself a high-protein snack and let's get to it.
So I am not a big New Year's resolution person at all. I mean, I'm in December, like, did I achieve my goals? Like, where am I at? What do I want for next year, right? Like, I'm kind of always assessing my goals and where I want to go and where I want to be and all that. But for 2024, I did make a list of goals. And one thing that is on it is to improve my mobility, to practice mobility daily, essentially. I mean, within reason. I don't do anything 7 days a week because that's just nonsense. But that being said, mobility is kind of a buzzword lately, but it is so important. Like, if you don't have mobility, you're never going to prevent injury. Like, mobility essentially is joint health, right? And we can build muscle and, have a strong body and feel and look fit. But like, if we don't have mobility, we don't have anything. Like, it is our foundation. So I actually use this example, and I know sometimes my examples are extreme, but this is the world that I live in, right? So a bodybuilder, like, they are, these big, beefy men typically, and women, right? But like, they can't take their shoulder through full range of motion. Like, they don't have mobility at any of their joints. And that's a problem, right? So I talk about all the time, like, building muscles, like I said, and I just put together a whole new program for when my clients graduate from my first program, because we are fixing imbalances. We're getting rid of pain. Building a healthy foundation, but then we have to continue to build muscle. Like, building muscle takes time, but we can't just build muscle without having mobility. I mean, you can, but like, I'll use my Excel for an example. My mobility is not the greatest. I mean, I have mobility, but because I lifted for so many years and I neglected stretching, I just hated all those things. I'm like, this is so time consuming and it's boring. And, I just had a lot of energy when I was younger, and I just couldn't sit still for more than 5 seconds. So to like sit and stretch for 30 seconds, like, hell no, that wasn't happening. That being said, I'm a little bit paying the price. Like, I feel great. I have mobility, but it can always be better. And I'm not a spring chicken, right? I'm 40 years old now. So anyways, what I want to talk to you about is just like why mobility is so important. So I see a lot in hygienists, like, you cannot even reach your head all the way over, or reach your arm overhead, excuse me. So there's a lot of reasons for this. Like, your pecs are really, really tight. Your lats are really tight. So there are a lot of tight muscles. There's weak muscles. So there are imbalances, right? The shoulder joints misalign. So we can go ahead and fix that. But we have to also practice, like I'll give you an example of taking it through an entire range of motion. That shoulder joint is called a controlled articular rotation. I've talked about this before, but If you're not familiar with that, you can look it up, but I'll use another example you're probably familiar with is like in physical therapy. So when you go to physical therapy, what are they always giving you? They're giving you exercise to gain mobility, range of motion, and strengthen to a degree. Physical therapists are not personal trainers, so they don't actually know how to program to build muscle. So that's kind of the disconnect between like where a PT is versus like what I do. But when you have range of motion, that's how you're going to build your strongest, healthiest body. So you're going to recruit more muscle fibers, right? So think about it. If you're, not able to squat as low, I'm just going to use this as an example, even though like you don't have to squat ass to grass, like not everybody's capable of doing that. And there's no reason really to go below 90. But if you are limited on your squat, which again, a lot of hygienists are, their hips are very, very tight. They have limited ankle mobility. Their lats are tight and they're pulling their chest forward. So there's a lot of things going on, but once you start working on mobility, right, working the mobility in the hips and the ankles, like you will see an increase in your depth, right? That's just how our body works. And the more range of motion you have, like I said, the more muscle fibers your body's able to recruit, hence more gains, right? More muscle, more looking lean and fit and toned and all the things. Plus, you're just going to feel good. Like if you can't go through a whole range of motion, your body's going to be sacrificing like using other muscles, right? Because our bodies are smart. They are going to compensate. So like if I can't, if my right hip, for example, doesn't have full range of motion, well, then the other muscles are going to compensate for it and do the work because that's just how our bodies operate. So it's just important that we focus on gaining mobility in our joints. And I'm just going to highlight like the most important ones that I see in hygienists. And this is kind of like the warm up that I do as well. So ankle mobility, I see that limited a lot because, well, sometimes I know you're pressing a pedal a lot. So sometimes one ankle has a little bit less mobility than the other. So that could be a discrepancy from like the left to right side. But nonetheless, when you have an anterior pelvic tilt and your hamstrings are lengthened, that affects your hips, the anterior pelvic tilt, which trickles down to your knees and your ankles, right? So I do see limited ankle mobility a lot. So like if you don't have dorsiflexion, like sometimes if you can't squat, if you put a little plate, like a weight plate under your heel to increase that dorsiflexion, you'll be able to go a little bit lower. So if you ever see people doing that, that's why. But you shouldn't have to do that if you're working on ankle mobility. An example too, if you like sit on your feet, like on your knees with your feet underneath your butt, like if that hurts, I don't know what it's called, but just sitting on your knees with your feet like plantar flexion, then if that hurts, your ankle mobility is limited, right? So that's one area that we really need to focus on because everything stems from our ankles. The other area is our hips, right? I talk about this all the time. A lot of hygienists have that anterior pelvic tilt or like a lateral pelvic tilt, and our hips are really, really tight. Or if we're sitting in that 90-degree position, even if we have a saddle stool or not, like we still need to stretch and strengthen our hips and make sure that we have full mobility in our hips because literally, everything stems from our pelvis. And if our hips aren't healthy, then our whole body's going to be jacked at the end of the day. Then the next one's going to be the T-spine. So I actually did a reel on this the other day, but because you have rounded shoulders and that little kyphosis, that excessive flexion, hygienists don't have thoracic mobility, right? That T-spine mobility. So that is huge. A lot of it has to do with scapular mobility, right? And scapulas work with the shoulder joint, which is, where everything you're doing all day in your job stems from the shoulders. So we need to make sure that our T-spine is really, really healthy. I'm trying to think of what this is called. So like a thread the needle, you can do that. I mean, there's a lot of mobility drills you can do. I'm not going to just ramble off mobility drills for you guys. This is something that I include with my current clients as a cool down because it's like, cool, we're going to do the warm up to prepare the overactive muscles for activity. Then we're going to strength train the weak muscles. And then we're going to do mobility at the end so that we have kind of that balanced program workout from start to finish. So anyways, I got off topic there for a second. I apologize. But the other area is going to be obviously, of course, the shoulders, right? The T-spine and the shoulders go hand in hand. So it's really important that we have mobility in the shoulders, of course, because that's going to prevent impingement, any type of shoulder injury, so on and so forth. And then, of course, the cervical area, right? The neck is going to be huge, especially because we have forward head in hygiene. So it's important that we have mobility of our neck, right? You want to be able to fully turn it to the left, to the right, up and down. So controlled articular rotations are nice to do for mobility. They are a little more time consuming than like say your standard mobility drill, just because you want to make sure that you do those really slow and intentionally. I mean, with anything, right? But there's other movements, like you can do the world's greatest stretch for mobility, right? Like that's a little bit more I don't want to say fast paced, but it's just not as slow as a controlled articular rotations. So, I mean, I have a mobility drill warm up or cool down, excuse me. So you guys can always message me and I can share that with you. Absolutely. But there's so many resources on mobility nowadays that I just don't even really feel like that it's necessary. But the last thing I will say too, you don't want to do like, mobility for an hour, right? Maybe you can do 5 minutes a day, literally, because the more you do it, your body is going to adapt to that and it's going to come easier and easier and easier. But you also don't want to do like, a whole mobility flow one day and then a whole different mobility flow the other day. Like you kind of want to stick with one flow for like a month, say. Again, only like 5 minutes a day. It doesn't have to be crazy. And then once your body gets more comfortable with that and it's adapting, and then you can switch to another one. This is what I do with my program. So it's 9 months. I've extended it, but every month is going to be a different mobility, or it is a different mobility warm up, so that our body can, progress and get better at certain mobility drills. And then we move on to another one. So just a little bit of information. Don't feel like you have to go do 800 million different mobility plans all day, every day, in addition to your workouts. So I feel like I'm starting to ramble now, but let me know if you have questions on that. Please do not skip mobility, guys. It's so important to build our strongest, healthiest body and to prevent pain and injury. So that is all I have for today. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you next week.
Thank you so much for listening in today. I hope you got a takeaway from this episode. And if you did, would you be so kind to share it with another dental pro you think would benefit from it? I know you love learning, and chances are that they do too. Also, I would love to connect with you on Instagram, so go ahead and head over to the Lift for Longevity podcast page or follow me at Built by Brianne. If you shoot me a message saying hello, I will personally respond because I love chatting with dental pros. Before you go though, I want to let you know that I appreciate you and what you do, and I hope to chat soon. Until next time, stay strong.